Mr. Speaker, NATO is the single most important and effective military alliance the world has ever seen. In the 18 months we've been in power, I've done everything within my ability to strengthen NATO. We had one of the strongest NATO meetings last year, the summit, where we had more members of NATO and more unity. When I arrived back to the House to make a statement, which of course she asked for...
No one saw this coming. Just moments ago, shocking reports claimed that Keir Starmer stepped down from his position after facing massive public pressure. The political world is suddenly in chaos. Questions are rising across the country, and people everywhere are asking the same thing. What forced one of the UK's most powerful leaders to resign so suddenly? Here's what we know so far and why this moment could change British politics forever. Keir Starmer is one of the most important political figures in the United Kingdom. For years, he has been a central face of British politics and a key decision maker who shaped major national debates. His position gave him huge influence over government policies, public direction, and the future of the country. That's why news about his reported resignation has created such a massive reaction. Before entering politics, Starmer built a strong reputation as a lawyer. He worked on major legal cases and later became the Director of Public Prosecutions, one of the highest legal positions in the country. This role gave him an image of seriousness, discipline, and strong leadership. Many people saw him as someone who believed in law, order, and careful decision-making. His professional background helped him gain trust and respect from both supporters and critics. When he entered frontline politics, Starmer quickly rose through the ranks. He became known for his calm speaking style, controlled personality, and focus on policy details. Unlike loud or dramatic political figures, he often presented himself as a stable and responsible leader. This image helped him gain support during times of political uncertainty in the United Kingdom. As leader of the Labour Party, Starmer carried the responsibility of guiding one of the country's biggest political parties. His job was not just to lead supporters, but also to challenge the government, present alternative policies, and convince the public that his leadership could shape a better future. His decisions influenced economic plans, social reforms, public services, and foreign policy discussions. Under his leadership, the party worked to rebuild its public image and regain trust among voters. He promised change, stability, and a new direction. Many supporters believed he represented a fresh start for British politics. At the same time, critics often questioned his decisions, leadership style, and political strategies. This mix of support and criticism created constant pressure around his position. His role also carried international importance. As a major political leader, his statements affected global relationships, economic confidence, and diplomatic discussions. Investors, foreign governments, and international observers closely watched his actions because changes in British leadership can impact global markets and world politics. Because of this powerful position, any sudden change involving Starmer is not just a simple political update. It becomes a national event. Leadership changes at this level can create uncertainty in government planning, party direction, and public confidence. People begin to wonder what will happen next, who will take control, and how policies may change. Over recent months, Starmer had been facing increasing political challenges. Public expectations were high, criticism was growing louder, and debates around his leadership became more intense. Political pressure is common for leaders, but when pressure builds continuously, it can weaken even the strongest positions. For many citizens, Starmer represented stability during uncertain times. For others, he became a symbol of frustration and disappointment. This divided public opinion created a tense political atmosphere where every decision was closely examined and strongly debated. That is why the news of his reported resignation has shocked both supporters and critics. A leader with such influence does not step down without serious reasons. His position, power, and public responsibility make this moment extremely significant for the country. Understanding who Keir Starmer is helps explain why this situation matters so much. This is not simply about one person leaving a job. It is about a leadership change that could affect government direction, national policy, and the political future of the United Kingdom. And this raises the biggest question: What exactly happened that pushed such a powerful figure to the point of stepping down? The answer begins with how the story of his resignation first emerged and how events quickly unfolded. The situation unfolded rapidly, and the speed of events left many people stunned. Reports about Keir Starmer's resignation began spreading suddenly, creating confusion and intense discussion across political circles. Within minutes, the story dominated headlines, social media platforms, and news discussions, with everyone trying to understand what had just happened. According to early reports, the announcement came after growing tension behind the scenes. Sources claimed that pressure had been building for days, possibly even weeks, before reaching a breaking point. While the full details were not immediately clear, the message was simple and dramatic. One of Britain's most powerful political leaders had reportedly stepped down. The news first emerged through political insiders and media sources who suggested that Starmer had made the decision following mounting public and political pressure. Soon after, discussions about his resignation began trending online, with journalists, political experts, and citizens sharing reactions in real time. The sudden nature of the reports created an atmosphere of shock and uncertainty. In situations like this, the timing of events is extremely important. Political resignations at this level usually follow intense internal discussions, private meetings, and serious strategic decisions. Leaders rarely step down without long consideration, which makes the sudden nature of this development even more surprising. Many observers believe that something significant must have happened behind closed doors to trigger such a major step. Soon after the reports appeared, attention turned toward official statements. People expected confirmation, clarification, or denial from party representatives and government officials. In modern politics, information spreads quickly, but confirmation often takes time. This gap between reports and official response only increased public curiosity and speculation. Political analysts immediately began examining recent events for clues. They looked at Starmer's latest speeches, public appearances, and political decisions. Every recent move was being reviewed to identify signs of pressure or crisis. Experts discussed whether recent controversies, policy disagreements, or public criticism could have contributed to the situation. Inside the political system, such a development can create immediate disruption. A leadership change affects party unity, decision-making, and national direction. Senior members of the party may hold urgent meetings, discuss next steps, and plan how to manage public reaction. The stability of leadership is essential for political confidence, so sudden changes often create uncertainty. At the same time, reactions from political figures began to emerge. Some leaders expressed surprise, while others called for clarity and transparency. Opponents demanded explanations, and supporters looked for reassurance about the future direction of leadership. The political atmosphere quickly became tense as questions continued to grow. The public response was equally intense. Citizens across the country reacted with shock, confusion, and strong opinions. Some people welcomed the development, believing change was necessary. Others expressed concern about political stability and the future of government policies. Social media became filled with debate, discussion, and speculation. The speed of modern communication played a major role in how the story spread. Within minutes, millions of people were discussing the situation online. News updates, expert opinions, and public reactions created a constant flow of information, making the event feel even more dramatic and urgent. Another important factor in this situation is the impact of leadership transitions. When a major political figure steps down, it does not only affect one party, it influences national confidence, economic stability, and international relationships. Global observers closely watch such moments because changes in leadership can reshape policy direction and diplomatic priorities. Despite the growing reports, many key questions remained unanswered. What exact event triggered the decision? Was the resignation voluntary, or was it the result of intense pressure from within the party or the public? Was there a specific crisis that forced this outcome? These unanswered questions continue to drive public and interest. What makes this story even more powerful is the idea that public pressure played a central role. Leaders often face criticism, but when pressure becomes overwhelming, it can lead to historic political changes. Understanding this pressure is essential to understanding why this moment happened. To truly understand the situation, we must now look deeper into the growing public dissatisfaction, criticism, and political tension that reportedly pushed the crisis to its breaking point. Behind every major political change, there is usually a long story of growing pressure, public anger, and rising tension. In the case of Keir Starmer's reported resignation, many observers believe that strong public reaction and continuous criticism played a major role in pushing the situation toward a breaking point. Over recent months, Starmer had been facing increasing pressure from different sides. Political leaders often deal with criticism, but the level of public attention around his decisions had grown stronger and more intense. Every speech, policy move, and public appearance was closely watched, discussed, and judged by both supporters and critics. One major source of pressure came from public expectations. When a leader promises change and a new direction, people expect clear results. If those expectations are not fully met, frustration can quickly grow. Many citizens began questioning whether the leadership was delivering the improvements they hoped for. Concerns about economic challenges, public services, and national priorities added to this growing dissatisfaction. At the same time, criticism from political opponents became louder. Rival parties and critics repeatedly challenged his decisions, leadership style, and political strategy. They raised questions about policy choices and argued that different leadership was needed. These attacks increased the political tension and kept pressure on his position. Media coverage also played an important role. News discussions, expert debates, and public commentary constantly focused on leadership performance. In today's fast-moving media environment, criticism spreads quickly and reaches millions of people within minutes. Continuous negative attention can shape public opinion and increase pressure on political figures. Social media further intensified the situation. Platforms allowed citizens to express their opinions instantly, and large public debates developed online. Supporters defended Starmer's actions while critics demanded change. The constant flow of strong opinions created a highly charged environment where pressure continued to grow. Public demonstration and organised criticism can also influence political decisions. When large groups of people express dissatisfaction, leaders must respond carefully. Even the perception of widespread public anger can create serious challenges for political stability. Leaders are expected to maintain public trust, and losing that trust can weaken their position. Another important source of pressure often comes from within a political party itself. Internal disagreements, policy conflicts, or leadership challenges can create serious tension behind the scenes. Party members may question direction, strategy, or decision making. When internal unity weakens, leadership becomes more difficult to maintain. Political leadership requires balancing many different interests at the same time. Public expectations, party unity, national priorities, and international responsibilities. When pressure grows from all directions, the situation can become extremely difficult to manage. Even experienced leaders can struggle under continuous criticism and rising demands. Experts often describe this type of situation as a pressure build-up. At first, criticism grows slowly. Over time, it becomes stronger, more frequent, and more public. Eventually, a moment arrives when the pressure becomes impossible to ignore. That moment can lead to major decisions, including resignation. Public trust is one of the most powerful forces in politics. Leaders depend on the confidence of citizens to remain effective. When trust begins to weaken, authority can be challenged and calls for change may increase. In democratic systems, public opinion has the power to shape political outcomes. For supporters of Starmer, the pressure may have seemed unfair or exaggerated. They may argue that leadership always involves difficult decisions and that criticism is a normal part of politics. For critics, however, the pressure represented necessary accountability and the demand for stronger leadership. This divide between supporters and critics created a deeply tense political atmosphere. Every new development increased speculation about whether the pressure would eventually force a major change. Many people were already asking whether his leadership could survive such intense scrutiny. If the reports of his resignation are true, it would show how powerful public pressure can be in shaping political history. It would demonstrate that public opinion, criticism, and political tension can combine to create dramatic turning points in leadership. But the story does not end with pressure alone. The reaction to this development across the country, from citizens, political leaders, and the global community, reveals just how significant this moment may be. As the reports of Keir Starmer's resignation spread, reactions across the United Kingdom came quickly and strongly. The political atmosphere became tense almost immediately, with leaders, citizens and experts trying to understand what this moment means for the country's future. Supporters of Starmer reacted with shock and concern. Many believed his leadership brought stability and direction during difficult times. For them, the idea of his sudden departure created fear about uncertainty and the possibility of political confusion. Some supporters expressed disappointment, saying the pressure on him had become too intense and unfair. They argued that leadership always involves difficult decisions, and that strong criticism should not always lead to resignation. On the other hand, critics responded very differently. Some saw the development as a necessary change. They argued that growing public dissatisfaction had finally produced results. For critics, this moment represented accountability in action, a sign that leaders must respond to public opinion and take responsibility when pressure becomes overwhelming. Political opponents also quickly entered the discussion. Rival parties demanded clear explanations about what had happened and called for transparency from leadership. They raised questions about the stability of the political system and what this change could mean for future policies. Some leaders used the moment to strengthen their own positions, while others urged calm and careful decision-making. Inside the political system, attention immediately shifted toward the question of leadership transition. When a major political figure steps down, the next step becomes critically important. Who will take control? How will the party choose new leadership? What direction will the country follow next? These questions create uncertainty not only within politics, but also across society. Leadership changes can affect many areas of national life. Government planning, economic policies and public services may face delays or adjustments. Investors and businesses often watch political stability closely, and sudden changes can influence economic confidence. Even international partners pay close attention, because leadership shifts can impact foreign policy and global relationships. The public response has been equally intense. Across the country, people are discussing the situation in homes, workplaces, and online spaces. Social media platforms are filled with debate, strong opinions, and emotional reactions. Some citizens are hopeful that change could bring new opportunities, while others worry about instability and political conflict. Experts say moments like this can become turning points in political history. A leadership resignation does not simply end one chapter. It often begins a new and uncertain period. The decisions made in the coming days could shape the country's direction for years to come. Another key issue is public confidence. During times of political change, citizens look for reassurance that leadership remains strong and stable. Clear communication from political figures becomes essential to maintain trust. Without it, uncertainty can grow and create further tension. There is also the question of long-term impact. Will this moment change the balance of power in politics? Will new leadership introduce different policies or priorities? Could this reshape future elections or national debates? These possibilities make the situation even more significant. For now, the country watches closely as events continue to unfold. More details are expected to emerge, and official confirmations or statements may clarify the full situation. Until then, uncertainty remains the dominant feeling across the political landscape. What is clear, however, is that this moment has captured national attention. A powerful leader facing public pressure, a sudden resignation, and a nation waiting for answers. These elements create a dramatic and historic situation. The coming days will reveal whether this development marks a temporary political shift or a major turning point in British leadership. One thing is certain, the impact of this moment will be felt far beyond today's headlines, shaping the future of politics in the United Kingdom.